And there's so many different things at play when we think about just relationships, and because she's a white woman.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
white Jewish woman.
interesting.
And we separated when my daughter turned 2. And like I was in school.
Right.
By this time I had filed for my son and brought my son up. My son's father and I were amicable enough. He, signed over custody so my son could get his green card because he was here and I was here, and like I really wanted my child to be with me.
Right.
I didn't want him to be a borrowed child. I didn't want to not be there physically. I didn't understand that, girl, you would have to be there emotionally. This is, you're raising a Black man.
Right.
And if he doesn't learn love from you, he's not going to learn it anywhere else.
Right.
Because there's so many things that he has to deal with in society, and there are so many traps. Granted, he doesn't have to walk into them,
Right.
but they're there.
Yeah.
So home has to be that safe place for him.
Right.
Right. But I was just thinking I wanted him with me, even though I was still with my daughter's dad at the time and it wasn't great. At this point, I knew he had this woman. I went to Jamaica to see my son. People are telling me that a white woman was at my house.
Oh
Three
wow.
different people, two people emailed me, one person texted me, two girls that were dating two separate brothers and a friend.
Oh wow.
Oh, he came to a New Year's Eve party with this white woman. He said she was his
That
friend.
party. That's bold.
And that's
That's
who he's
real
married
bold.
to.
That's
So, like,
bold.
as the year progressed, when my daughter was born, whatever, she was then sending letters to the house. It was her man.
Mm.
We will all be together, letters like that. So I was trying to plot my exit at
Mm.
this point, right? Then
Right.
he's sleeping at her house. I'm going to
Good for
school.
me.
I have the baby. He picks her up some days, but as soon as I get home from school and my job on campus, he leaves and goes to his girlfriend. And I'm like, oh my God. But like, I just let him do him. And
Right.
like, but during that time, my daughter, I was labeling everything in the house,
Mm.
reading to her, and like baby Einstein. And while I'm hitting the books, she's beside me, and my emotional health is messed up, but she's
Right.
thriving.
That's
Like
good.
I did the paperwork,
Good
I
and bad.
brought my son up.
Yeah.
I said, I said to him, I know we're not in the greatest of spaces, but I want my child to be with me.
Right.
By the time I brought my son up, his mom had moved out. So it was just me and him in a 3-bedroom apartment. When I went to Jamaica to bring my son up, he moved his friends into the apartment.
What?
So my bedroom became my son and my daughter's bedroom instead of my son having his space. I was like, but then he wasn't sleeping there at night. So I guess they were there to watch me. And these are people I knew.
Right.
But this is how it was more like, oh, you're the only one here not paying rent, not contributing to the rent. And this is the way I'm in school, I have a job on campus, and I have a child,
Right.
right? You're the
Right.
father of my child. I said to him, that's pension right there. Like that's your responsibility.
Exactly.
So I was very, you know, but inside I was like, wow, I gotta get out of here.
Right.
I started looking at places. People were not comfortable with my one single income.
Mm.
I remember one time I went to look at this apartment, and the A train goes to Aqueduct and one goes to Lefferts. I ended up on the Aqueduct one instead of the Lefferts one.
Oh
And I had
God.
the stroller, and I had to take the train in the other direction, go down those stairs, go back up those stairs, and take the
I
train back to Leffert.
I know what you mean. It has been done to me. Yes.
And I'm on the platform just thinking, I want to end it all.
Mm-mm.
I'm thinking I want to just push the stroller in front of the train.
Mm-mm.
Suicide ideation.
Mm.
Like fuck it. Everything is,
Right.
um and this old man walks up to me. I didn't have any money that day either. It was a Friday, and I was like, yo, and the old man, because he's not giving me any money at this point too.
Wow. Okay.
So there's also that financial abuse piece that's
Exactly.
also not talked about.
Right.
And economic abuse and financial abuse are like similar, but not necessarily the same thing. Because
Right.
economic abuse is like preventing you from working and preventing you from going to school, finishing your degree, not watching a child, not
Right.
helping provide childcare. And then, financial abuse, kind of like putting credit cards in your name and, just preventing the money from flowing. Like, so there's so many different ways in which people are abused. It's mostly women though, and
Yeah,
DV is the number one driver of family homelessness,
it is.
second only to evictions.
Right.
And, so technically, I was being evicted by the father of my child,
Right.
and I saw the old man, and he was like, "I saw you with the stroller. Did you bring that up by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "No one helped you," and I was like, "No." And he was like, "I'm sorry." And he gave me 5 singles, Khadijah.
Aw.
And he said, "Buy something for you and the baby." And I was like, them times chicken wings with French fries was
Yeah.
$3.50. Remember
That's when you
that?
had life. Oh,
Yeah.
the good times.
And I'm telling you, when the train came and we went on the train, the man entered, and I don't know where this man turned.
Oh, wow.
And I've always had instances throughout my life where it's like, nobody can tell me that wasn't God. That
Right.
wasn't an angel, and then that kind of gave me that vibe, drive to go and look at the apartment today. And I went and I looked at it, and they weren't very nice. They were like skeptical and whatever, but I didn't get it, you know. But I felt empowered to keep going. Like I was literally touched by an angel. But I had my son. We had to find somewhere to live. Um, I flew to Jamaica the June to bring my son to Jamaica, because at this point, like, the people I was in school, I was working, and my son was gonna go on break.
Right.
When I came back up from Jamaica, like, this guy had changed the locks and
Oh,
put my son and I things in the hallway of the apartment, and the white woman was in the
wow.
house with him and his friends.
That's mm-mm. That's crazy. He don't care where his kids land. Well, not kids, kid lands. He don't care what happened to them. Like that's crazy to me. That's a little
and
bit,
and 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 then he was like, "Oh, you can stay on my couch." I'm like, "What?" But then, as I said, I didn't know what resources were available, and I left. I stayed with a friend, you know. I went to Path,
Mm,
and at first contact, that's the other thing too. Like, a lot of these people, I mean, it's better now, but then they weren't trauma informed.
right.
And like, that first person I met was like, "Well, if you're homeless, that's an ACS case."
How? Yeah, path people are. I mean, the shelter system in general is just messed up, and they love pulling the ACS. ACS.
And I didn't know, like, girl, you're a DV survivor. Like, you
Right.
could have gone to a DV shelter with your child. And then I heard about when they said to me, "Oh, you had to bring 2 bags, one for you and one for the baby." And I was like, it's just so daunting to think of compressing my life into 2 bags.
Right.
And I went back, and he had a gun in the house. And like, I look at my actions back then, I didn't know I could have gotten the cops to go back with me. And, this is after returning to get my stuff because I still had things there. But I went back with a cabbie. I didn't know I could have gotten police escort.
Escort. Right.
I didn't know organizations I knew Destiny existed. I didn't know about the family justice centers.
Right.
I didn't know about any of that. Fast forward, I'm going to school. This man is abusing me, and I'm not knowing that this is post separation abuse. I mean, stalking. I mean, showing up at my house when it's not his visitation time, just doing a lot.
Right.
And then I had filed for child support because he wasn't helping. Then he turned and filed for custody.
Wow. You're not even
Now,
taking care of a child, but you want custody. Yo, that's really trying to brainwash people. Like, I guess I will stop doing. You'll probably stop doing the
it's to
child support.
destabilize you.
Yeah,
It's to destabilize you and keep you off balance. And he filed for custody. And then because, it's like a two-headed, sword because on one hand, I was like frightened out of my mind.
right.
It's like you're taking my child and then you're there with this white woman and you know I felt it would have been easier for him to get her and all of that, but he like started the assault even more. Like he would file motions saying to add the girlfriend name to the blue list at my daughter's school.
That's crazy.
I've never exchanged a word with this woman. It just got to be a lot. He called ACS. He told him my son was abusing my daughter. It was just like every
That's
time I
crazy.
started working and things started getting really stable. So he was attacking me in custody court and child support court. And
Mm.
the lies, the accusations that those things like my son abusing, I had to refute all those things. So I was constantly on the defensive more so
Mm-hmm.
than the offensive. Like the court wasn't really hearing about what he was doing. But this is
Mm-hmm.
prior, like this is family court, but the judges, I don't feel were understanding that this is power dynamics. This is power and control. This is the intersectionality of race, sex, and class. Because like there's the father's right organizations. Oh, they're more interested in your right as a father than your responsibility as a father.
Right.
And it was just my daughter was started lying. Like one day she like something was submitted to court and there was a question that the judge was supposed to ask her on an in camera. How do you feel when your mother's stuff is your mother's stuff is your dirty underwear in your mouth? And I said to her, what? Where did that come from? And she said, well, my father said, what kind of nastiness is your mother up to now? And that was the nastiest thing I could think of to tell him.
Oh
And I put her in
wow.
therapy. And she's still in therapy to this day because it's like she feels caught between both of us, I feel, because I know she loves her father.
Right.
I've always supported their relationship.
Right.
My dad died when I was 6 years old. I
Right.
never wanted her to not have it, but at the same time, it's the capacity that he shows up as a father.
Right.
Like you're not there for her emotionally. If you destabilize your child's mother and your child's mother is not thriving, how do you expect your child to thrive?
That's the problem people
Especially if
don't
your
think about.
child is I'm we based on the custody thing, like we did 9 years
Mm-hmm.
in custody court. It was
A
settled May
long time.
2022. During that time, I lost numerous jobs. Some I left too because it was just hard. Like
Right.
I was living in Brooklyn at one point, working by Kingsborough, and my daughter was in school in Queens. So I get up
Mm.
at Bed-Stuy, I run to Queens to drop her, then travel all the way to Kingsborough, so the end of Brighton Beach. Like I was so exhausted and still not paying attention to my mental health. my emotional health, but my daughter was thriving.
Right.
99 percentile across New York State.
Oh, that's
Passed the
nice.
gifted and talented tests, violin and chess and all of that. And it was just never enough for this man. Like my parenting was constantly undermined. I was constantly harassed. Like my doorbell would ring and I would wonder if it's the cops or if it's ACS.
Mm,
Like, I mean, the doorbell would ring and my heart
right.
would start racing. So